hello there. So we are getting into the book of 1 Samuel. In the next 8 weeks, we're going to study that. If you go into the Old Testament history, you go through the Pentateuch, which is the days of Moses and all that, and Joshua, and then getting into the Promised Land. Then you have the book of Judges. That covers a lot of territory of different people that God would raise up to help Israel out of their cycle of apostasy and defeating the enemies that were overtaking them at the time. The book of 1 Samuel takes place near the end of Judges, okay? So we're talking about around 1100 BC, around that time. And it ends with the death of the first king, which was King Saul, and that's about 1011 BC. So of course with BC we're going down, counting down to the days of Jesus. So we're here in this era of the kings. We're seeing how Israel had consistently been forsaking the God of Israel, turning to these false gods, Baal and Ashtoreth and all these others, led, behind the scenes, of course, by demons and all the spiritual war that is going on constantly for our souls. It was then too, and the children of Israel were facing it daily. We get into the first book, in 1 Samuel here, and we meet Hannah and her husband, and we will explore a little bit more about that relationship and her pouring herself out before the Lord. Hannah's husband, Elkanah, then you have Hannah, and then Hannah's, the other wife is Peninnah, and then she doesn't, she is able to have children and Hannah's not, and Elkanah sees the problem there and loves Hannah, gives her a double portion, tries to just express how much he cares about her, even says, well, isn't it, it's okay that you don't have sons. Aren't I just as good as 10? And, I can understand his heart there, but obviously it's not the right thing to say to a woman who's not able to have children and is grieving over that, especially when you have another wife who's having all these children, very much so. We need to remember something, that just because the Bible speaks about the way people live doesn't mean that God condones that kind of behavior, okay? There's nowhere in there that says you can have more than one wife and God will approve, okay? Any more than it's okay that Judas, portrayed Jesus, or that these people sin in this book and this particular part. Just because something is happening just shows us that that was the real world of the time. Doesn't mean that God approved of what they were doing. At any rate, we go to Shiloh because, again, the tabernacle, there's no temple in Israel yet. It's just the tabernacle that Moses had set up and God had given him instructions to put up for the people of Israel, the Levites, to do all the sacrifices, to point toward the sin that, the sins being paid for eventually on the cross of Christ. All of these things, all the feasts, all the sacrifices, everything points toward Jesus. And you learn about more in the book of Hebrews about that. But anyway, Eli is the high priest, and he is a worthless high priest. We'll learn about him. And his two sons are also worthless. They're profaning the sanctuary. They're prostituting themselves. They're sleeping with the girls that are attending the tabernacles. It's a mess. But God is going to bless Hannah and give her a son, and that is going to be Samuel. And we're going to learn more about him and how he's going to lead the people of Israel into eventually having their first king, and of course then also anointing David, who will be eventually the king of Israel as well. So as you study 1 Samuel with me this week, just take the first 3 chapters, study them this week, go over them, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for listening. God bless.